The stars were silent, stretching endlessly across the void like spilled silver dust. In the cold emptiness, a single ship drifted, its hull scarred from years of silent travel. Inside, Commander Rylan moved carefully, eyes scanning the dim corridors. Every creak and hum of the engines made him tense. The galaxy had grown quiet, too quiet, and that silence had begun to feel dangerous. Rylan had spent his life exploring star systems, mapping planets, and recording civilizations. But now, he felt a growing unease. Reports had come in from the outer colonies. Worlds where humanity once thrived had gone dark. No signals, no communication, nothing. It was as if entire planets had simply vanished. He paused at the observation deck and looked out. Below, the blue planet of Sorith spun slowly. It should have been alive with cities and energy, but all he saw were shadows. No lights flickered. No ships moved in orbit. Only a silent, empty world staring back at him. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Cora, her voice trembling slightly. She handed him a small hollow tablet showing a map of lost human colonies. Every dot represented a world once inhabited by humans. Every dot had disappeared in the last decade. Rylan's jaw tightened. "It can't be coincidence," he said quietly. "Entire civilizations don't just vanish." Cora shook her head. "There's more. Look here." She zoomed in on one world, a planet called Theres. Theres sent out a distress signal before it disappeared. The message was strange. It mentioned an entity calling itself the Null, claiming the right to erase what does not belong. Rylan's mind raced. The Null. He had heard rumors in the deep networks, whispers among scientists and explorers. A force, an intelligence, moving through the galaxy, erasing life without warning. But he had always thought it was myth. Now, the evidence stared him in the face. "Prepare the ship," Rylan said finally. "We're going to Theres." His voice was firm, but inside, a knot of fear tightened. He had no idea what waited for them, but he knew it would not be kind. Humanity had been bold, spreading across stars, but for the first time, he wondered if they had been too bold. The journey to Theres took 3 standard cycles. During the trip, the crew worked in tense silence. Sensors were unusually quiet, and the ship's AI, usually chatty, made only the most necessary reports. Every scan showed nothing, no signs of life, no signals, not even remnants of civilization. When they arrived, the planet hung like a forgotten jewel in the void. Its surface was scarred, cities reduced to ash and dust. The once green forests had turned to gray, lifeless plains. The entire planet felt hollow, as if it had been drained of history and memory. Rylan's communicator crackled. "Commander, you should see this." It was Cora. She was standing on the bridge, holding a small device that projected a flickering image of a human figure, a hologram from the Theres archives. "It's the last recorded message from the planet," she said. The image showed a man with a worn face, speaking directly to the camera. "If anyone sees this, understand that we are gone. Not by war, not by plague, but by something else. Something that erases not just our lives, but the very record that we existed. Humanity is being erased." The hollow flickered, static taking pieces of his face. Rylan felt a chill run through him. Humanity being erased. The idea was horrifying, almost impossible to comprehend. How could a species, spread across hundreds of worlds, vanish as if it had never been? He turned to the crew. "We need to find out who, or what, is doing this. And if possible, stop it." Cora hesitated. "Commander, what if it's already too late?" Rylan stared out at the ruined planet. He didn't answer. He didn't want to admit that fear, even to himself. He only knew one thing. The Null had come, and if they didn't act fast, the rest of humanity might disappear too. The first steps onto Theres were cautious. The ground was brittle, as if even walking could shatter it. Their boots echoed in the empty streets, a sound so loud it seemed to disturb the silence itself. No birds, no animals, no signs of human life. Only silence, thick and oppressive. Then, from the shadows of a collapsed building, a flicker of movement caught Ryland's eye. A human form, or something like it, was crouched there. The creature looked weak, terrified, and yet its eyes glimmered with a strange intensity. It was alive, but not fully human anymore. Before anyone could react, it spoke in a voice that was both human and not. You are the last. Ryland swallowed hard. We're trying to be, he said. Who did this to your world? The figure shivered. The null. It takes the name, it takes the history, it leaves nothing. We thought we could hide. But it finds all of us. The crew exchanged tense looks. The mission had begun, and the horrors of what lay ahead were only starting to unfold. Somewhere out in the dark, an intelligence moved, silent and unstoppable, erasing everything it touched. And for the first time, humanity was truly in danger of being forgotten. As night fell over the hollow cities of Theres, Ryland stood alone on a rooftop, staring at the stars. He thought of home, of Earth, of every world humanity had built. And he realized that saving the future would require confronting a force that might be more powerful than any they had faced before. A force that didn't kill in a normal way. A force that erased existence itself. And deep inside, a thought whispered that chilled him to the core. What if the null had already come for them, too? The wind on Theres carried an eerie silence. No rustle of leaves, no whisper of life. Only the faint hum of the ship's engines echoing in the empty streets. Commander Ryland led his team cautiously through the ruined city, every step raising dust from collapsed buildings. Lieutenant Cora stayed close, her hand on her blaster, eyes darting to every shadow. The creature they had seen earlier had disappeared, leaving only a faint trail of disturbed ash. Ryland could not tell if it had fled, or if something darker had taken it. Every instinct screamed danger. Humanity had spread across the stars, but here, on Theres, it felt like the galaxy had turned against them. Sensors are picking up faint energy readings, Cora said, checking the portable scanner. Something large, moving below the city. Not human. Ryland frowned. Could it be survivors hiding? Cora shook her head. No. This isn't biological. At least, not like us. It's something else. Something artificial. Artificial. The word made Ryland pause. Could the null itself be here? Could it already be moving through the ruins, erasing everything? The team moved to the lower levels of the city, where tunnels had once been used for transportation. The walls were cracked, covered in ash, but strange symbols had been etched into the stone. They glowed faintly, almost like warnings. Look at this, Ryland said, crouching to inspect the carvings. They're not human. But they're intelligent. Someone, or something, left them here. A sudden sound made the crew freeze. It was faint, almost a whisper, coming from deep within the tunnels. A voice that seemed to echo inside their minds more than through their ears. You are not yet erased, the voice said. It was soft, mechanical, and haunting. But your time is near. Ryland's hand went to his blaster, but the voice continued before anyone could respond. You are the last of your kind to question us. Survival is optional. The lights on their suits flickered. The air felt heavier. Even Cora, usually brave, swallowed hard. Commander, what is it? She asked. Ryland did not answer immediately. He had studied alien intelligence for years, but nothing like this. The null was not just a force, it was a presence. It thought. It calculated. And it erased. As they moved deeper, the tunnels opened into a vast chamber. The walls were lined with strange machines, pulsing with dim energy. And in the center, a pedestal. On it lay a small device, glowing with a soft blue light. Ryland stepped closer, feeling a pull he could not explain. It looks like a record, he whispered. Maybe something the null left behind. Cora shook her head. Or a trap. Be careful. Ryland reached for the device, and the moment his fingers touched it, the chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights on the machines blazed for a brief second. A holographic projection erupted from the pedestal, showing thousands of human faces. They were not moving, only staring silently, trapped in the light. "These are humans," Cora said, her voice trembling. "From all over the galaxy." Rylan felt a chill. The null didn't just erase colonies. It captured their existence, their memory. This device, it's a record of what was lost. A sudden noise made them turn. The shadows at the edges of the chamber moved. Something vast, dark, shifting like liquid shadow, rose from the darkness. Its form was never solid, always changing, always reaching. "You see me now," a voice said. It was the same whisper from before, but louder, stronger. "I am the null. I take what does not belong to the stars. I erase to protect, to balance. You are unnecessary." The crew fired their weapons, but the shadows absorbed the blasts as if they never happened. The null moved with speed that made their hearts pound. It flickered around them, vanishing and reappearing, testing them, threatening them. Rylan raised his voice. "We won't let you erase us." The null paused, tilting its shifting form as if curious. "You resist. Strange. Resistance is futile." Then it vanished. Just like that, leaving silence and a faint hum in its place. The chamber seemed normal again, almost empty, except for the pedestal and the trapped holographic humans. Cora collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. "Commander, it's too powerful. We can't fight it like this." Rylan clenched his fists. "We don't have to fight it, not yet. We have to understand it. If it's erasing humanity, then knowing how it chooses its targets is the first step." They studied the pedestal, scanning the device. There were codes, patterns, symbols. They seemed to pulse in response to their presence. Rylan realized it might be possible to communicate with the null indirectly through this record. Maybe they could learn its weakness. A soft whisper echoed again, almost like a warning. "Do not linger, or you will be next." The crew exchanged fearful looks. The null was no longer a distant threat, it was here, watching, testing them. Every moment they stayed, the danger grew. Rylan took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing thoughts. "We can't leave yet. Humanity needs a chance. We have to take this back, understand it, and fight it in our way. If the null erases us, then no one will ever know we existed. Not our worlds, not our people. Nothing." Cora nodded slowly, gripping her blaster. "Then we proceed, carefully." As they exited the chamber, Rylan looked back at the glowing pedestal one last time. The faces of the lost humans stared silently, as if begging for their story to be remembered. Somewhere out in the galaxy, the null moved, erasing civilizations with cold precision. But here, in the ruins of Theres, a spark of defiance remained. And that spark was humanity. The ruins of Theres stretched endlessly around them, silent and gray under a pale sun. Commander Rylan led the crew carefully through the broken streets, their boots crunching on the brittle ash. The pedestal's glow from the chamber still lingered in his mind, haunting him with the trapped faces of lost humans. Somehow, understanding that device could be the key to stopping the null. "Commander," Cora whispered, scanning the streets. "I still feel it. The null. It's close." Rylan nodded. "I know. And it's watching us. But if we panic, we're already halfway gone." The crew descended into another series of tunnels beneath the city. These were older, untouched by the recent destruction. The walls were lined with strange markings, not just etched symbols, but glowing lines that pulsed faintly as if alive. Rylan realized that the null's presence was interacting with the environment. It wasn't just destroying, it was leaving patterns behind, codes, signals, instructions. "This is a map," Rylan said, tracing a glowing line with his finger. "The null. It leaves behind traces. Maybe clues to what it is or how it works. It's not random." Cora bent down, examining a series of symbols carved in a corner. "Look at this. It's like A chain. One action triggers another. The null isn't just erasing, it's following rules. A system. Ryland's heart raced. If they could decode the system, perhaps they could predict it, even manipulate it. Humanity had faced invincible foes before, but this was something that erased not just life, but memory itself. Still, he knew they had to try. They moved deeper into the tunnels until they reached a massive chamber, larger than anything they had seen on Theres. The walls were lined with glowing panels, each flickering with fragments of erased worlds. Entire cities, entire civilizations, floating as shadows in the light. The null had collected pieces of humanity, like a predator gathering trophies. A sudden chill ran through the crew. "It's everywhere," Cora whispered, eyes wide. "Everywhere it erased." Ryland stepped forward, studying the panels. "Look at the patterns. Each world, each species, every human colony it erased follows a sequence. There's an order." One panel flickered, and a faint image of a human child appeared. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her lips moved, but no sound came. The image shattered into fragments and disappeared. Ryland felt a pang in his chest. Every face here was someone who had lived, dreamed, loved, now reduced to faint echoes. "This is worse than I imagined," muttered Cora. Ryland clenched his fists. "It doesn't have to end this way. If we can understand its system, maybe we can fight back, maybe even save someone." A soft vibration ran through the chamber. The null's presence returned, not with noise, but with pressure, a weight pressing against their minds. Commander Ryland felt it like a shadow inside his thoughts, probing, calculating. "You are curious," the null's voice whispered. It echoed around the chamber, soft but commanding. "You seek to understand me, but knowledge is dangerous. Do you want to exist, or disappear?" Ryland swallowed hard. "We want to survive. We want to protect what's left of humanity." A flicker of shadow appeared in the chamber, a shape that was never fully solid. Its edges shimmered like liquid smoke. "Then you must learn the rules. Every erased world, every memory, follows my law. Understand it, and you may live. Misstep, and you vanish like the rest." Cora shivered. "Rules? We're dealing with an entire galaxy of erasures. How can we learn its rules?" Ryland studied the glowing patterns. "We start small. We look at the fragments. Every erased world left a trace, a pattern in the system. The null is methodical. It doesn't act randomly. If we find the law, we find a weakness." The crew began cataloging the glowing panels, scanning symbols, sequences, and broken memories. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The null erased worlds in cycles, and each cycle left a residual signal, a code embedded in the void itself. "This is it," Ryland whispered. "We can predict its next move. We can save humanity, if we're fast." The null's presence pulsed stronger. "Curiosity is dangerous. You are daring to defy me. Will you risk existence for hope?" Ryland glanced at his crew, their faces pale but determined. "We have no choice. If we run, humanity is finished. If we fight, there's a chance, a slim chance, but a chance nonetheless." The chamber trembled suddenly, panels flickering wildly. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving faster, closing in. The null tested them, probing their courage, their resolve. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, but Ryland stood firm. "We've learned something today," he said, voice steady. "We know the null leaves patterns. We know it follows rules. Tomorrow, we use that knowledge. Tomorrow, we strike back." Cora nodded, gripping her blaster. "We might not survive, but we have to try." Outside, the ruined city of Theres seemed even quieter, if possible, the shadows longer, the emptiness deeper. Somewhere out there, the null waited, calculating, erasing. But for the first time, a tiny spark of defiance burned in the darkness. Humanity would not disappear without a fight. And deep inside, Rylan knew the real challenge had only begun. The crew returned to the chamber with a renewed sense of purpose, their steps lighter but hearts still pounding. Commander Rylan carried the portable scanner, now filled with sequences and patterns of the null's erasure cycles. Every faint pulse of the glowing panel seemed to watch them, alive, aware. "We have the rules," Rylan said, spreading the scans across the floor. "We can predict the null's next cycle. If we can manipulate it, even slightly, we might save someone, or even a world." Cora leaned over, her eyes scanning the symbols. "It's risky. One wrong move and we disappear. No trace, no record, nothing. Are we really ready?" Rylan glanced at the team, seeing determination mixed with fear. "We have to be. Humanity depends on it." The plan was simple in theory. Use the patterns to create a false signal, tricking the null into targeting a phantom world. By redirecting its attention, they could observe how it reacts, test its limits and maybe even weaken it. Simple, but deadly. They began their work. Hours passed as they recalculated sequences, double-checked alignments, and ensured that every code matched the null's cycle. Every error could be fatal, every delay deadly. "Ready," Rylan said finally, sweat running down his temple. "Let's send the signal." Cora activated the device. A pulse of blue light shot through the chamber, spreading outward, embedding itself into the network of glowing lines. The panels flickered violently, and for a moment, the room was bathed in an intense, almost blinding light. Then silence. The null's presence returned, not immediately, but slowly, like ice spreading over water. Shadows crept along the walls, darker, denser than before. The voice whispered, echoing through their minds. "Deviation. Anomaly. You dare test me?" Rylan felt a chill run through his body. The null was aware, but the pattern had worked. It paused, probing the signal, uncertain, recalculating. "It's responding," Cora whispered, eyes wide. "It's confused." The shadows shifted, forming vague shapes that seemed almost humanoid, stretching and contracting with every pulse of light. Then one of them detached and moved toward the device. Rylan raised his blaster, but the shadow stopped a few meters away, hovering in midair, as if studying them. "Clever, little humans," the null hissed, voice dripping with something like amusement. "You mimic the law, but you cannot change it." "We don't want to change it," Rylan said firmly. "We want to survive. We want to learn." The shadow pulsed, vibrating with energy that made the ground tremble. "Learning is dangerous. You trespass in my cycles, and yet, you endure." Cora stepped closer to Rylan. "Commander, it's testing us. Measuring our limits." "What now?" Rylan's mind raced. They had succeeded in drawing its attention, but now they had to survive. "We observe. Take notes. Watch how it reacts. Every movement, every pulse is a clue." The null began to shift around the chamber, its form splitting and stretching, interacting with the glowing panels. Each panel flickered, some disappearing, some changing patterns. The trapped human images pulsed as if reacting to its presence. "It's learning from us too," Cora whispered. "Yes," Rylan said, gripping the device tightly. "But so are we. Every flicker, every response, we're understanding it. One step at a time, we can fight back." Suddenly, a scream echoed from one of the panels. A human image shattered violently, breaking into fragments. Dust and faint light swirled around it, and for a second, the room seemed to go completely dark. "Commander!" Cora shouted. It's erasing." Rylan acted instinctively. "Hold onto the device. Focus on the pattern." He recalculated the sequence on the fly, adjusting the codes, trying to stabilize the false signal. The null pulsed violently, shadows slamming against the walls. It seemed angry, frustrated, and aware that it had been tricked. Then, slowly, the pulses began to settle. The chamber stabilized, panels flickering gently instead of violently. The images of the lost humans stopped breaking, held in their fragile existence. The crew exhaled heavily. They had survived. But the null's presence lingered, heavy and oppressive, a constant reminder that this battle had only begun. Rylan looked at the team. We've learned something crucial today. The null follows rules. We can predict it. We can manipulate it, at least for now. But we're not safe. Not yet. Cora wiped sweat from her forehead. And it's aware of us now. Every step we take, it's watching. Rylan nodded. Exactly. That's why we keep moving, keep learning. If we make one mistake, it's over. But if we succeed, we might save more than a planet. We might save humanity itself. As they left the chamber, the ruins of Theres seemed quieter than ever, but the shadows moved subtly among the broken buildings. Somewhere, beyond sight, the null watched, calculated, and waited. Humanity had struck its first blow. But the war against erasure was only beginning. The ruins of Theres felt colder than before, as if the planet itself mourned the lives the null had erased. Commander Rylan led his team cautiously through the streets, the glow of the device in his hands casting flickering shadows. Every step seemed to echo too loudly, like a warning. The null is aware of us now, Cora said, her voice low. It's not just watching, it's testing. Every move we make, it learns. Rylan nodded. And that's exactly why we need to act fast. We have a chance to save some of the fragments it's collected. Some humans might still be recoverable if we're careful. The pedestal in the chamber had given them hope. Some of the human memories were trapped but still intact. Using the patterns of the null's erasure cycles, Rylan believed they could extract them without triggering a full attack. It was risky. One wrong calculation, and the null could erase them, and the crew, instantly. They returned to the chamber, the walls humming faintly with energy. The trapped faces of humans flickered weakly in the glow of the panels. Rylan's heart tightened at the sight. Each fragment represented a life, a story, a world stolen too soon. Here's the plan, Rylan said, spreading out the scans and notes. We'll isolate a few fragments at a time. Cora, you guide the device. The rest of us will stabilize the patterns. Move too fast, and the null will react. Cora nodded. Understood. Let's hope this works. They began their delicate work. The room hummed louder as the device interfaced with the glowing panels. Every adjustment, every calculation had to match the null's cycles precisely. If they missed a step, it could trigger the null's wrath. A faint whisper filled the room. You meddle with what belongs to the stars. You dare defy me. The voice was close, almost inside their heads. Rylan swallowed hard. Yes. We dare. Humanity will not be erased. The shadows pulsed violently, black tendrils stretching toward the crew. They froze but held their ground, each pulse of the device carefully synchronized. The first fragment detached from a panel. A human child's face appeared, blinking, frightened but alive. Cora guided it into the containment field of the device. It was stable. One life saved. That's one, Rylan said, relief washing over him. Keep going. Fragment after fragment followed, small pieces of humanity flickering back into existence. Each success made the null more restless. Shadows twisted faster, pulsing with a growing intensity. You will not succeed, the null hissed. Its voice vibrated in the air and in their minds. Every fragment belongs to me. Rylan ignored the words. Focus. We can do this. Then, the device shuddered violently. A new wave of darkness swept the chamber. The null had found a way to interfere directly with the process. The saved fragments flickered and threatened to vanish. Hold it steady. Rylan shouted. Don't let them go. Cora adjusted the sequence, hands shaking. Sweat ran down her face. It's too strong. It's pushing back. The null's voice grew louder, almost roaring. You cannot change fate. You are nothing. Rylan stood firm. We are everything humanity has ever been. Every world, every life, every dream, we refuse to let you erase it. The shadows surged, tendrils lashing toward the device. The crew braced themselves, holding the patterns stable. Sparks flew from the glowing panels, and the room shook as the null's presence pressed closer. Then, with a sudden pulse, the shadows recoiled. The fragments stabilized in the device. One by one, they blinked back into existence, pale but alive. The null hesitated, as if considering its next move. Rylan exhaled sharply. We've done it. Some humans are safe, for now. Cora looked around, fear still in her eyes. But it knows exactly what we're doing. It's learning, faster than we can keep up. Rylan nodded grimly. Yes. And that's why we move next. We can't stay here. We need to get these fragments off Theres before the null returns with full force. The chamber pulsed one last time with the null's presence, a warning and a threat. The shadows receded into the corners, but the air remained heavy, like a storm waiting to strike. As they prepared to leave, Rylan looked at the rescued fragments in the device. Faces of children, men, and women flickered softly, fragile but alive. Each one was a spark of humanity that refused to be erased. We've made a difference today, Rylan said quietly. But the null isn't finished. It will hunt us, it will learn, and it will try to erase us again. But we'll be ready. Every step we take now counts. Outside, the ruins of Theres stretched endlessly, silent except for the faint hum of the ship. Somewhere in the darkness, the null waited, calculating its next move. Humanity had survived another moment. But the war against erasure had only just begun. The air outside Theres was heavy with silence, broken only by the low hum of the ship's engines. Commander Rylan guided the crew carefully through the ruined city, the device containing the rescued human fragments securely strapped to his chest. Every shadow seemed alive, every gust of wind carrying a whisper of the null's presence. It knows we've taken the fragments, Cora said, scanning the ruins with her handheld sensor. It's tracking us. We can't let it catch us outside the city, or inside either. Rylan nodded grimly. We'll move fast, keep low, and stay unpredictable. The null may follow patterns, but we can still outmaneuver it, for now. They reached the outskirts of the city, where the terrain opened into jagged plains. The null had already begun its hunt. Shadows stretched across the ground, reaching like dark fingers, moving faster than the eye could follow. They weren't just erasing, they were searching. Move! Rylan shouted. Keep the device stable. The crew ran across the plains, boots kicking up gray dust. Behind them, the shadows twisted and shifted, moving closer, faster, as if the darkness itself had taken shape. Cora fired a few blaster shots at the tendrils, but they absorbed the energy like smoke, leaving no mark. It's adapting, she said, panting. It's learning every second we're out here. Rylan glanced down at the device. The human fragments flickered faintly. Every pulse of the null caused instability, threatening to erase the lives they had just saved. We can't stop now, he said. We need the ship. Once we're aboard, we can stabilize the fragments and plan our next move. The terrain ahead was rough, jagged rocks and deep fissures that could slow their escape. Rylan led the way, leaping over a gap just as a shadow tendril stretched toward him. It hissed, recoiling for a moment, as if frustrated that it couldn't touch him. Keep moving, he urged. Every second counts. As they neared the ship, the null's presence surged around them, pressing on their minds. The whispers became deafening. You cannot escape. You will disappear. All you love, erased. Cora gritted her teeth. Focus. Don't let it scare you. The crew reached the ship, climbing aboard with the null closing in. Once inside, Rylan slammed the door shut. The airlock hummed, separating them from the encroaching darkness. For a moment, silence returned. Status? Rylan asked, breathing heavily. All fragments are stable, Cora reported, scanning the device. But the null is still out there. It knows we escaped, and it won't forget. Rylan set the ship to warp. We can't stay near Theres. We need to find a safe zone, somewhere to analyze the patterns further, and maybe strike back. The ship lifted off, engines flaring. Outside, the null's shadows stretched toward them, but they couldn't follow into the vacuum of space. Still, the sense of its presence lingered, like a weight pressing on the hull. "We've only delayed it," Rylan said, his eyes on the stars. "The null learns fast. It will adapt. And next time, it might be stronger." Cora nodded. "Do we even know what it is? Is it alive? Is it a weapon? A machine?" Rylan shook his head. "I don't know. But I do know one thing. It erases, and it calculates. If we understand it better, we might find a weakness. If we don't, humanity ends." The crew worked in tense silence, stabilizing the fragments and reviewing the data from Theres. Every symbol, every glowing pattern, every sequence of erasure was studied carefully. Slowly, a clearer picture began to form, a network of cycles, rules, and signals. "Commander," Cora said after hours of analysis, "I think I see it. The null isn't random. It has a rhythm. It targets worlds, then leaves traces, then moves on. But if we can predict the next cycle, we can plan a counterattack." Rylan's eyes narrowed. "Then that's what we do. We take the fight to it. If it erases civilizations, we need to strike before it can finish. Humanity deserves a chance." The null's whispers returned, faint but chilling through the ship's comm system. "You think you can defy me, but I see you, always." Rylan clenched his fists. "Yes. And we will defy you. We'll save what we can, and we'll fight back. No one erases humanity while we're still alive." Outside the viewport, stars stretched endlessly. Somewhere in the darkness, the null was moving, erasing, calculating. But aboard the ship, a small crew carried the spark of humanity, fragile but unbroken. Rylan knew the next encounter would be the most dangerous yet. The null had learned of them, and it would come prepared. But humanity had something the null could never erase: determination, hope, and the will to survive. As the ship sped into the black, Rylan looked at the device containing the rescued fragments. Faces of men, women, and children flickered softly in the dim light. They were alive. They were proof. And humanity was not finished. The ship drifted through the void, silent except for the hum of engines and the faint flicker of the device holding the rescued human fragments. Commander Rylan studied the readings, tracing the null cycles like a hunter following prey. Every sequence, every rhythm, every shadowed movement led them to one conclusion: the null was predictable, if you understood its logic. "This is it," Rylan said, his voice firm. "We know its next move. If we strike now, we have a chance to stop it, or at least slow it down." Cora adjusted the device, securing the fragments. "Are we ready for this? It's stronger than anything we've faced. And it knows us now." Rylan nodded. "Yes. We don't have a choice. Humanity has survived wars, plagues, and starvation. We will not be erased by a shadow in the dark." The null appeared suddenly, emerging from the black void outside the ship. Its form twisted, a living darkness, ever-shifting, impossible to focus on. Shadows stretched like tendrils, reaching toward the ship. The null's voice filled their minds, a whisper and a roar all at once. "You dare defy me, meddle with existence, insignificant humans." Rylan gripped the device. "We're not insignificant. Every life you erase is a story, a dream, a memory. And we refuse to let you take more." The null's tendrils slammed against the ship, shaking it violently. Lights flickered, alarms blared. The crew fought to maintain control, stabilizing the device as the rescued fragments flickered under the null's pressure. "Keep the sequence," Rylan shouted. "We only get one chance." Using the knowledge they had gained from Theres, the crew synchronized the device with the null's cycles. Every pulse, every flicker of the panels outside the ship, every shadow in the void became part of a trap. The device emitted a signal that mirrored the null's own logic, a pattern designed to confuse and contain it. The null paused, its tendrils frozen mid-air. It pulsed violently, then shifted in ways the crew had never seen. It had never encountered resistance like this. Every attempt to erase or reach them met the mirrored patterns of its own rules. "You defy me. Impossible," the null hissed, voice echoing in their minds. Rylan stood firm. "You may erase, you may destroy, but you cannot erase determination. You cannot erase hope." The device glowed brighter, the rescued fragments stabilizing. Shadows writhed, twisting and shattering against the pattern the crew had created. For a moment, the null's form flickered, as if struggling to maintain cohesion. Then, with a soundless pulse, the null recoiled, retreating into the void. The shadows pulled back, dissipating slowly as the device continued its sequence. The null's voice faded, leaving only a whisper in the void. "This is not over. You cannot hide." Rylan exhaled, feeling the tension leave his body for the first time. Cora lowered her blaster, eyes wide but relieved. We did it. It pulled back." "Not for long," Rylan said, checking the device. "But we bought time. We've stabilized the fragments. Humanity has survived. Today." The rescued humans flickered faintly, their faces fragile but real. Children blinked in confusion, adults looked around, unsure of where they were, but alive. Every life saved was proof that the null's power was not absolute. Rylan looked out at the stars, thinking of every erased world, every lost colony. Humanity was scattered, fragile, but unbroken. "We may not stop the null completely," he said quietly, "but we can fight. We can survive. And we will ensure our story is never forgotten." Cora nodded, eyes shining. "We'll keep learning, keep predicting. One day, maybe we can end it for good." Rylan smiled faintly. "One step at a time. For now, we return these people to safety, rebuild, and remember those we lost. The null may try to erase us again, but it cannot erase our will." The ship jumped into warp, leaving the shadows of Theres behind. Somewhere in the galaxy, the null still moved, calculating, hunting. But aboard the ship, humanity's spark burned brighter than ever. Rylan glanced at the flickering faces of the rescued fragments. "Every human we save, every life we protect, is a victory. And as long as we fight, humanity will endure." The stars stretched endlessly before them, a universe of possibilities. The null had been challenged, for the first time, by something it could not fully destroy. And humanity, small and fragile though it was, had proven that hope could shine in even the darkest void. As the ship sailed into the uncharted reaches of space, Commander Rylan knew one truth above all: humanity could be threatened, tested, and even hunted, but it could never be erased entirely. And in that knowledge, the spark of life continued, undaunted, unbroken, and alive.